Does this perfectionism, though, like you said, in your training, does it come from wanting to be that perfect, or does it come from the pressure of the superiors at that time when you're coming up the ranks as a chef? Because I'll say this from a person who doesn't know much about this industry.
It's a pretty toxic environment.
Oh.
And and when I say toxic, I mean this in, I don't know if there's a nice way to be toxic, but I mean this in a way that we come from a box of social misfits and extremism, right? Where passion, I could sit and talk to you about why the world ended because you put that piece of micro cilantro facing left instead of right. Like the world's ending right now, right? That's how serious it is. But when the chef tells you how long on the sea bass, I need it in 5 seconds, you better believe it's 5 seconds. He doesn't mean 6 seconds. And the world's gonna blow up if it's not 5 seconds because, like Chef Eric Rupert says, 30 seconds is a lifetime in fish cookery. So we live and die by deadlines, which is why you'll notice a lot of military, former military join, because we're used to structure and guidelines and we find it easier to live within those boundaries. But you go to a bank and you ask me to fill a form and I'm being mocked by a 23-year-old going, I'm like, oh, what do I do? Like, I'm like,
you don't know what to
yeah.
do.
So we live like that. And when you live in an environment that's every day, you're in pressure, you have to have outlets. And when we do, that's why you'll see alcoholism, a lot of divorce rates, drug abuse, because they're so extreme about how they do one thing, there has to be an outlet in a similar sort of fashion. If I start breaking down what I really, really do or what I'm capable of doing on my day-to-day life, from logistics and business and schematics and land zoning to...
It's more.
It's a lot more. It depends on what you're talking about. So the hard part about this is I don't think I know who I am outside Chef P. And maybe I don't even want to know because maybe I'm not very happy with that. So there's a little bit of that too. Like when I weighed 390 pounds for quite a bit of my life. Mm-hmm. And I realized I knew I was big, but I kept staying more and more at work because that was my cape, because there I was a Superman. Outside that, I was just a fat boy. Maybe I didn't care, but maybe I did, but I was just hiding behind just being a phenomenal chef. Yeah. So I just went back to doing what I was doing really well, which applies to most chefs. That's why I say we're a bunch of social misfits where we find glory in what we do. Yeah. So we stick to that.
Can you share a moment where you doubted any part of your career or your path?
Was about the time when I left.
The lowest time.
Yeah, that was about the time when I left MGM. I really had questioned every identity of mine. I mean, I was...
Were you questioning
who
being
I
a
am
chef at all?
Yeah. I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm never going to get an opportunity like this somewhere else. And should I go back into this or should I change companies? And I really didn't know what path to take, because until then I had all penned it all out and I didn't know anywhere. I had my blinders on. That was one. And then obviously when COVID happened, we had opened the Greystone 2 weeks prior to COVID. And to move to a city, struggle for 3 years, with having no market presence, and then finally open doors, and then have the hotel shut down with really no answers. And now I'm going, should I have left a mega corporation where at least I know what the hell's going to happen?
These things happen back to back.
Yeah, by the time I leave Vegas and move to Miami, I work for 3 years and we have a great gala time pre-opening and building a hotel and concepting and all the fun stuff that comes with it. And then we open doors and they say, we're done. And I said, well, what next? Well, nobody knew what next. But by this time, I think personally and professionally, I was so far along the way that I never feared what's going to happen. I was comfortable. I was like, no matter what, I said, you know what, how's that saying go? Everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
To go back to your first story that you shared with me about how it was when you were leaving Vegas and you didn't know, like, should I even be doing any of this?
Yes.
How did you talk or get yourself out of there? Like, what did you do to be like, okay, this is my next move?
I just wanted to find out if I really have it in me or not, if I'm really that good or not.
So what, you forced yourself to move to Miami?
Yeah.
Why did you choose Miami?
Well, I didn't. One of my very, very close friends, also my business partner in ways.
Your time at MGM, like when, you know, your superiors are rigid for a reason. right? It's a high pressure environment anywhere for a chef starting.
Yeah, I don't think it's MGM particularly. It's
Anywhere.
any high caliber, any outlet that requires performance to be at its best.
Very
yes.
extreme. Would you say that the shows portray it correctly?
To some extent, yes.
Okay. So to use that as an example, do you think that's necessary? To get this excellence out of chefs and line cooks? Like, do you think that's...
My answer is pretty simple. Diamonds are made in pressure. I mean, there is an X amount. See, and if that's not the case, because over time now, that kind of pressure has been reduced, environments have changed. Now, that results in, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there's a simple thing. In this algorithm, this is the output, and in this algorithm, this is the output. Now, whether it works or not, I'd be no one to say what works for you, what doesn't. In tough environments, create tough people. That's just how it works, right? I mean, if you spar every day, the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war. That's just how it is, right? Now, today's generation, or the younger generation that's still coming up, I've noticed this, they're very good at succeeding and they're very bad at failing. They're phenomenal winners. They all know exactly how to conduct themselves. They're great in boardrooms and whatnot. The first time they take a slap, or the first time their business fails, they cannot understand why somebody doesn't like them, why somebody disagrees. Try confrontation now with younger generation. They're very good at putting forward data. They're far more articulated. They're very good artists. Like I always say, like today's generation can gel and do artistry, like amazing. They're really good at being good. They're terrible at being bad.
Wow.
They all have, I say, and it's not their fault because they're a product of their environment. There's so much more opportunity to succeed and so little safety net for failure. They just don't understand how to fail. They're glass chins. You take a punch and they're falling.
You have to be able to take criticism too.
So when this environment changes and when this trend changes, they will struggle. We find that in our generation, success came after a longer time. Today, success can happen pretty quick.
Yes.
Pretty quick. So by the time we became successful, we were also groomed to understand how to handle it. Today, it's not like that, right? They can become successful overnight. So how does someone who became successful overnight have any opportunity to cope with it? They don't.
No, they don't know how to sustain it, right? They don't know how to hold it.
Hence.
And then when the problems arise, then they fall weak. They say like this, you're a strong, the more criticism you can handle, the more blows you can take, the stronger person you are, and you can actually handle that success and that level of achievement, because that doesn't come cheap. You know, that comes with a lot of work.
I always say it's not whether you can be successful or not, it's whether you can sustain it.
Sustain it. Yeah. That's with your business. How long can you stay in business for?
And it all comes down to that. So I don't really think that environment is good or bad, but pressure makes diamonds, and we know that, and that's just how it is.
But you've taken that, like when you explained about how you do handle your team a little differently, where they're not afraid. I'm sure you were afraid of people when you were working for your super. There was moments where you were probably.
I still am.
Right?
Yeah.
But you don't want that environment in your restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, when I say I still am, and I luckily, I always say, like, I'm at a point in my life, personally and professionally, I will only do something if I absolutely want to. And to me, that's success. I will work with who I want to work with and when I want to work with. That's my definition of success. I've come to terms with the fact that I'll always have to work and I always want to work. But if I get to pick that, that's successful enough. But for my team members, they're given a lot of guidelines and a lot of opportunity to fail. Yes, definitely. Would this have happened 10 years ago? Absolutely not. And in fact, some of my team members who've been with me prior, I think find it glaringly different, and we do joke about it. But that's what we are in today. And again, we have to adapt. We just have to adapt. But I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it, but I know what to expect out of it also. Tomorrow in a high pressure situation, I know who's going to be able to handle it and who's not.